From beyond the farthest reaches of our galaxy they come. Two brains pulsing with a strange energy. These space brains come to share their love of science fiction movies.
Hi, and welcome to Space Brains, the podcast where we joy watch sci-fi movies and then talk about what was good and what was great. I'm Surrey, and this is Mark.
Hiya. Tonight we're talking about Tau, the 2018 film directed by Federico D'Alessandro. So consider this your spoiler warning.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen this film, just stop now, go back and watch it, and then join us to talk all about it.
So, sorry, what's your number one takeaway from Tau?
So the best thing is that I can foresee a beautiful future where I have Roombas that actually will clean up my murder scenes. I mean, clean up my spilled coffee, for example.
They're cool, those little drone things. I wouldn't mind them in my place with all the kids. Jeez. Set them to work.
Well, they're very nice because they work in this beautiful sort of dance-like movement.
Yeah.
Synchronized, moving in 90 degree.
I knew you would like that. You'd appreciate that because it's very mathematical, I reckon.
Yeah, they sort of do this grid crisscross pattern where they meet up and then some of them turn left, some turn right, and they just, that's lovely.
It is.
So I suppose the other thing also is that artificial intelligence, we've spoken about that before on the show.
We have, yeah.
And we've got this beautiful one here that was, as we're saying, designed to learn and grow. And
well, that is the Tau, isn't it?
That is Tau. Tau himself is a person because he's got a name, as we learn, and it's a far cry from the Commodore 64.
Yes, it is.
Although Tau couldn't upload super skills into your head like the Commodore 64 can.
No, that's right. Thanks to Gora.
Yeah, thanks to Gora. Yeah. But it was very nice to see an artificial intelligence in the house. We've been getting this promised, and there's been a number of other science fiction shows. Was there a Twilight Zone of that?
I think so.
Or Outer Limits?
Yeah.
Probably both. There's been a Simpsons.
There has been. And I mean, we had HAL from Space Odyssey.
Space Odyssey, where these computers go crazy. But it was really nice to see this one here. It's a computer that can gain empathy and become more human.
Correct.
As opposed to revealing the dark machine side of itself. It was a beautiful juxtaposition between the machine house versus the owner of the house, who was a human, but was decidedly less pleasant. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. His creation was was more human than him, or learnt to become human, didn't he?
Yeah, it was. Oh, except for his first version, which was Ares, that frightening robot.
Yes,
that was the earlier version, which
was
robot. a bit limited in its abilities.
Yeah, definitely.
Not in its ability to rip people to pieces, but still. I suppose it didn't make as good a dinner.
I think it was a killer robot, that thing. But it really surprised me when that happened and that thing came alive and hunted them down in the house. It was a cool, scary, strong robot, wasn't it? Like
you get that sound that sort of sound like pneumatic press.
Yes, yeah.
That very popular with robots. It always sounds unstoppable.
It does.
In its movements.
It does.
So tell me though, was this a hope, warning, or an experiment?
I'm putting it under experiment because we basically do have, a key character. Julia is kidnapped by Alex, who's the inventor and the billionaire inventor behind Tau. And I think it is an experiment because really we see, you're just touching on it, we see AI in its basic form, and then through Tau and Julia getting to know each other and forming an actual friendship, that then the barriers change, the relationship changes, and then we see this magic of Tau learning like a little child learning, but obviously it's quite a different beast than a little child, and it's got a lot of different powers. So And then I think as the story progresses and we have the fact that Tal questions then Alex's motives, and protects Julia. And then even at the end, the fact that he escapes in his little drone version, that's Tal, with his memories intact. There's then also the question of, well, where to from here? Like if this is real as a story or, part of our society, if Julia and this little AI intelligence Tal are out there in our society, like what would that mean for society going forth? So I see it as an experiment.
Experiment? Yeah. I like to think about it as a hope.
Yeah.
From that point of view that the machine, it was not the terror of the house.
Yeah.
I was kind of expecting that to be the point, and I was thrilled to see that the computer was not the bad guy. The computer, in fact, was a good guy.
Mm-hmm.
Starting off seeming to be the captor.
Yep.
But as you said, growing into humanity.
Yeah.
And I think learning and growing with the main character, the Julia, because she had a few of her own sort of hang-ups and problems and kind of worked through a bit of that, I guess, of trust issues and things with this computer.
Yeah, definitely.
So it was very nice. It was almost like one of those, a cat and a dog traveling across the country sort of things. So this was a computer and a robot learning to talk to each other and be nice.
It was. So anyway, you up to anything sci-fi related yourself before we get stuck into the nuts and bolts of this particular film?
Yeah, I discovered on YouTube a channel called Dust, D-U-S-T. It's a bunch of short science fiction films. A lot of them are sort of computer animated or assisted by computer animation. And they're maybe 5-7 minutes sort of long. They're quite short. Yep. Which means you can actually sort of watch one or two here and there in between doing other things.
Nice.
So, in fact, while I was writing up notes for one of my other podcasts, I stumbled across it. So that was very cool. I've watched one of those episodes about a sort of a combat robot that seems to have had, and it being a short film, it doesn't answer all your questions. It actually leaves you with kind of more questions, which is, I think, part of the way it inspires your imagination a bit. Whereas a combat robot, which seemed to have been infused with an intelligence of an actual soldier, but it was resurfacing. That intelligence was resurfacing, meaning that this combat robot was not doing its combat duties, which seemed to involve just indiscriminately killing.
Sounds cool.
It didn't feel like doing that, and so it had a debrief and it was quite good. If you ever watched the movie Source Code,
yes,
with Gyllenhaal,
yeah,
it was a situation similar to that, in that this combat robot was locked in some sort of restraints of some sort and connected in, and the person doing the interrogating was interrogating within a virtual environment. So that was kind of an interesting sort of take on it as well. It clearly showed that they had the technology to move consciousness into a computer and back. It's just that the combat robot was stuck in the computer.
Yeah, nice.
And so I'm putting that one on to have a look more at, because it's every week or every couple of weeks they come out with like a little short film.
Yeah, right.
So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. I'll have to check that out. Yeah,
so that's mine on one thing. Although, what did I watch this week other than Tao? I watched... I can't remember. It'll come to me later.
Yeah, fair enough.
Come to me later, I'm sure. And yourself?
Well, my feature script is days away from just totally being locked in the can, as in done. So, yeah, that's really exciting. I'm just kind of combing through that last version, just looking at, the grammar, punctuation, double checking formatting. I had an experience last week. I was a little unsure about if the start was punchy enough, and I actually had a bit of a vision about how the start should be just come to me. And it's just a bit of a different altered version to what I already had, but I like it a lot more. So I've added that in, and I've deleted a little bit of other stuff. And but it's just kind of that final scrape through. So I'm hopeful really this week, maybe next week, it's just going to be done, which is really exciting.
Oh, that'd be cool. So
Yeah. And I already know what I'm doing next. So it's just like, I just want to get over that hurdle. And then I'm going to send it to that contact I mentioned before, the producer behind Other Life. I'm going to also put it into the Australian Independent Film Festival, which happens in Queensland in November. So I'm going to enter it into that. That's a competition.
So that's just the script you put in?
Yeah, just the script.
Right,
okay. So I've never entered that competition before, but I want to give them a whirl this time with that. Yeah. And so I'll do those two things first, and then I might look at where else I can submit it as well. Yeah. So I'm excited by that. And then it'll be time to sort of move on to, making a short film. That's sort of going to be coming in the next couple of months. Yeah.
Well, we'll look forward to that.
Yes. So, a bit of exciting stuff going on that way. Yeah. Can't wait for it to all keep going.
Oh, it's lovely these days. Back in school, the very thought, my very thought of doing any sort of media production was just outrageous. I did filmmaking in year 12, and we had these video VHS
of course
type tapes or what are they, the little ones,
the mini DVD ones,
it's like a contraption for editing, which took the master and then a duplicate, and it was so hard. And from that, I just thought, I just cannot imagine. This is something you'd need a full studio and you'd need some serious money behind, because the equipment the school had was a little bit aging, but it was still pretty expensive. And good. And it was just dreadful. Little did I know, of course, that now it's so easy to throw together film.
Easier. Yeah.
It really allows you to, I suppose, work on your actual filmmaking skills rather than worrying about how you're going to get a camera.
Yeah.
Back in the day, you'd have to sort of beg, borrow, steal cameras. Now everyone's got a high definition camera. So that's...
Yeah, and it just, like, even we had the experience at film school of the first year at film school was a bit like you described. There was we had a physical editing scenario with a computer. Then in second year, they upgraded all of that at the film school I was at. So it just went totally digital. But you still did an output to a tape, because this was the internet existed, but we're talking the year 2000. So it's 7 years before YouTube. So, that whole sort of like, people didn't share video online at that point.
No, it would have taken too long to upload and download.
Yeah.
And...
So we still had to output to tapes, and then those tapes you could send to people and stuff like that. But it was just, I think society now, it's more, because we have that more, what's it called? Creative Commons, open license, freedom of people saying, hey, look, this is something I made and I'm putting it online, Vimeo, YouTube, whatever, for, social media sites and stuff. It's just a whole different way of looking at it now, and the old school companies don't, they want to lock us back into archaic copyright law, whereas a lot of the modern generation is going, that's not how it works now.
It's also different ways of making money from
That's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. So there's a whole other way that, you put something online to then look at people looking at it, liking it. They like you, Surrey, as an artist, and they want to see more of your stuff.
I think everyone likes me as an artist.
We all do.
I just haven't put out much art.
We're just waiting for more of your art, okay? Just get more of it out there. So anyway, to go full circle, the one thing I was going to say is, even though we had digital computers and stuff, you used to lose whole assignments. Like you'd be editing for 10, 20 hours and you just lose it all because the computer would crash. And you'd reboot the computer, it's gone. And whereas now, so you got frustrated. You got really frustrated with the whole experience, and you'd kind of walk away sometimes just going, oh God, it's not worth it. Like I hate this thing, Whereas now, of course, a lot of that is eliminated. So you're actually enjoying the editing, you're enjoying the process. And then when you output it, you're like, yeah, I like this. It doesn't have all that negative connotation.
And it's quick to get cuts out to have a look at as finished.
Oh, yeah.
The product as it becomes finished. And distribution becomes simplicity in itself. In fact, it's often harder to it's harder to not distribute than it is to distribute. Like you upload it to anywhere, and you've actually got to work to stop it from getting leaked out.
That's right. Yeah. You've distributed, haven't you? That's the thing. In the old days, it's like you physically had to send copies to people. Now it's
massive gatekeepers where we won't even go there. It's just it's outrageous.
Who knows? They might still exist. Sorry, and they'll get rid of this podcast. Get it off Spotify and
they are trying. They're trying to do it. The media companies are moving in on podcasts now, and they're trying to. Apple is bringing out exclusive podcasts that you can only get if you use your Apple Podcast.
Yeah.
Spotify has bought Gimlet, I think, Studios, which is a big podcasting radio studio.
Yep.
And Luminary has raised $100 million to buy exclusive rights to podcasts and producing big name, people like there's a Ron Burgundy podcast by Will Ferrell.
Yeah, right.
Ferrell. Will, if you're listening, contact us and let us know how to pronounce your last name.
Yes.
As usual, we have trouble.
We do have a lot of trouble. So anyway, look, we should probably focus on not talking about those gatekeepers too much and talking about this film, because this is what it's all about.
The only gatekeeper I want to know about is Alex.
And
his house.
Tao. So we've got this great story, really, of a woman is held captive by a scientist in a futuristic smart house and hopes to escape by reasoning with the artificial intelligence that controls the house. And so this is directed, in 2018 it came out. It's available only on Netflix at the moment. Directed by Federico D'Alessandro. It's written by Noga Landau.
Noga Landau?
Yeah, that's really good, sorry. And it stars as our key, really three just characters in this story that are worth mentioning probably is, we've got Julia, she's our key character, our protagonist, played by Maika Monroe. We've got Alex, the scientist, he's played by Ed Skrein, and the voice of Tao, and I got excited when I saw this. I know you didn't notice in the credits, but I noticed in the opening credits, just this guy, I love this guy, Gary Oldman.
Yes,
he's in so much stuff over the years. He's played bad guys. As I was just telling you before, the Hitman's the Hitman's bodyguard, and he's in that as the bad guy. This is what he does.
He's very good in The Fifth Element.
Fifth Element, yeah. I mean, we don't need to talk about what he's done. He's just brilliant. He's one of these actors, great character actor.
The Professional, I think is that what it's called? The Professional with Natalie Portman.
Yeah.
Luke, is it Luke? Someone or other, the French dude.
Yeah. Jean-Luc Pereira or something like that.
Yeah. Who knows? Hey,
another pronunciation. If any of these people, maybe Gary could just clear the air and just let us know. He could give us a call and just read out his whole IMDb.
Or if Natalie Portman want to get in contact with me,
yeah, she's a bit more connected to sci-fi, I suppose, isn't she? But anyway, Gary Oldman.
She's going to be
because of the Star Wars stuff. Annihilation. Very recently. Yeah. So anyway, Gary Oldman, I love him. It's exciting to see that guy in the credits. So that's a bit of the breakdown of the key stars of this. So should we just run through a bit of a plot that we have? Now, this film got me excited from the start because it follows a classic horror idea, which is our main character, she's a bit naughty at the start. She's a thief.
Yeah, she's pickpocketing. So, in particular, if you have a woman who's doing naughty things, she's in a tight skirt, tight dress. They get punished very badly.
They do get punished in horror. So to me, it was like straight away, I was like, oh, hello, we're following this beautiful woman down a dark alleyway in a really skimpy outfit, and then we learn that in fact she's using her body to kind of, elude young men in nightclubs while stealing their possessions, their wallets, phones, pickpocketing, and all that sort of stuff. Other people might say, well, good on her, she's just making a dollar. But yeah, straight away it's setting up that she's breaking the rules. And she is told as well then where she goes to hawk all this stuff that, she should get a partner and things should get better, and she shies away from that. And very quickly we are learning that someone is kind of lingering in the dark behind her and following her. There's a car, there's a hoodie. There's a bit of that sort of tension. And so to me, I was just like, oh, God, this is a good old horror, really. This is starting like a horror to me. We go to her apartment. We learn a little kind of nice thing about her, which is she feeds the pigeons.
This is her
save the cat.
This is her save the cat moment where I couldn't help but notice that and think, there we go. She has a heart of gold.
Has a heart.
She cares.
Yeah. And she also taps music college or music university or something.
Yeah, so she's
saving for...
She's trying to do something good.
Yeah. So although she's stealing money, she's got a goal. She's not just stealing it for heroin. And the next thing we know, after a bit of creepiness in her house, we see the door lock. I liked that, the lock of the door turning, but then no one's there. And then all of a sudden she's attacked from behind.
Jabbed with a needle.
Bit Hitchcocky.
Out she goes.
If Hitchcock's out there. Anyway, so she awakens and she's got a creepy mask over her face, and she's also in this sort of dungeon place with two other people that have been kidnapped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two other people. It's all very Saw-like sort of thing. You know, there's medical equipment. She's been strapped to a chair, and some sort of procedure is being done to her, but she doesn't know because she's sort of out of it most of it. And so, along with those initial horror trope actions that were happening there, I was really starting to think, like you, this is going to be, it's going to be a little bit stomach turning. Perhaps there's going to be some really awful situations here.
That's right. There's a flash, isn't there? There's some flashes of her sort of throughout her life. There's a quick series of, like, she's a little girl, and I think her dad's not very nice to her, or something. Like really quick, and then she's a teenager, and I think she's trying to play music or something. There's just a real quick series, and then there's her stealing from people. And you're right. She wakes, and it's a very clinical lab prison that she's in. She discovers these other prisoners or, people that have been kidnapped. But very quickly, she's a bit different to the others, isn't she? She wants to get out. We know that she's a bit more clever. She manages to steal a surgical knife and get her mask off, or scissors,
Some sort of weird little, angled scissors.
Angled scissors, right. And so she gets her mask off, she gets the others' masks off. We learn a little bit about them. The guy says that, we're the bottom of the barrel kind of people. And
no one's going to miss us.
No one's going to miss us. Like, this is why he's picked us. And they're kind of fearful of the man, the kind of mysterious man. I don't think at this point we've seen his face either. So he's kind of been kept in the dark.
Now, I got a real vibe of Sin City, in fact. If you remember Sin City, the first one there, where there's Elijah Wood's character.
Yes.
Who's that sort of the glasses.
The shadow.
You just sort of see the glasses glinting in the shadow. Very similar here. You got this very sort of straight cut looking guy, which makes him a little bit more sinister because he looks so sort of clean. He doesn't have wild shaggy hair or rags of clothing.
No. It's very clinical. It looks surgical.
A bit doctoral, yeah.
Yeah,
so, and that in itself is quite spooky. I think
it is. And these ideas, there's a couple of movies. Human Centipede's probably one of them, and I think there's another one.
That movie cracked. The entire concept behind that movie cracked.
Yeah. But there is, and I've seen a couple other horrors. I'm just trying to think of a title off my head. But there is that idea of the surgeon, isn't there? Like a clinical surgeon. Not just this deadbeat guy.
Well, some of the Hellraiser. Has a bit of that going on in there, where there's the psychiatrist, for example, who does his little experiments and mucks about.
And even Saw itself, isn't it? It alludes that the doctor is behind it. How there's that kind of as a bit of a plot point, and then it's not. So it's kind of It
was actually the doctor's patient.
Yeah, so it's kind of
sorry, I just ruined it for everyone who hasn't seen Saw.
Sorry, we didn't do that as a thing. Anyway, so Julia pretty quickly she wants to escape. As I said, she gets the mask off. She starts. Excuse me. She uses the thread of her pants. And the scissors to try to get out, and then they realise that there's this big, I'm going to call it the air conditioner.
I think it was a generator because it was
some sort of power generator.
There was gas going in there.
There was gas, and anyway, so she's trying to spark a thing, and then she hooks the pipe, so the gas actually starts pouring out, doesn't it?
Yeah. And then everything's electrified down there.
Yeah. So she causes deliberately. The others say don't do it, but she causes a massive explosion. And with that, their prison cell is kind of, burnt to pieces, and they're free. The alarm is going off. There's smoke. There's fog. All sorts of stuff. They get upstairs, get to the front door, and it is a solid beast of a front door. You can't get out.
And we also realise that we're in someone's house.
Yeah,
we're not in like a prison or an abandoned warehouse or factory or anything where you'd normally expect these sort of.
It's a really expensive upmarket house, isn't it? It's a mansion. But they can't get out. The front door is, whatever it's made out of, it's a solid state-of-the-art door. And then with that, we get this death robot, as I like to call it.
Yeah, well, the guy
alive.
that's in there with her, he sees there's like a little hand panel. So he puts his hand on it and the woman says, no, don't. But he does. And then it goes red, of course. The alarm stops, the lighting changes. And this, what appeared to be a modern sculpture, suddenly starts transforming into this rather angular and powerful looking robot, which then proceeds to hunt them down one by one, ripping them to pieces.
Yeah, and it does. It does it pretty quickly. She discovers a wall that looked like a big glass wall, but it's actually electronic digital TVs. It looked like it was a forest, like looking out on the forest or something. And as she starts to crack it with a weapon, it's like a digital screen. So they're trapped in
concrete background. Yeah. So you're left wondering exactly what sort of house this is. And the robot. Alex comes home before the robot kills her.
Yeah, he stops her.
She gets grabbed by the arms.
That's right.
You think she's going to have her arms ripped out.
Yep.
When Alex, the owner of the house, rocks up and says,
Tal, stop.
Tal, stop. Yeah. And then he assesses the situation and realizes that he's lost his research, these things he's implanted in the back of their heads to record their brains. 2 of them are gone completely, but hers is still recording and viable. And when he looks into it, he sees he's actually getting quite good response from her. So rather than dispatch her, he has a bit of a deadline to reach. We're not sure exactly what it is he's trying to do, but he has to record their brains to do it.
We learn in that sort of scene as well, after the assessing of the damage, that, there's some pictures of him. He's like a billionaire. He's an inventor. He's behind AI previously. He runs some sort of big company. Then he has a meeting, doesn't he? A virtual video meeting with some other executives. And they're talking about that, he's got so many days to implement
some
this
big contract is coming up.
Yeah, this big contract, which we learn from him that then that's what he's trying to do with the experiment with the people. He's trying to sell a more emotional Tao, I believe.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what his exact response was, because he's saying that he's got about 95%.
Yes.
Tao is a Mark II, or is level 2.
Yeah.
The robot, which he called Ares, it was his first effort. It was it wasn't really that smart.
That's right.
Tao, though, he said was about 95%.
Almost there.
And he wants to get some more input from these human brains in order to complete his AI.
And that's what he's getting from these people he's kidnapped. Julia overhears this, and because she is a little bit more cunning, she actually barters with him basically in that scenario, because he's got her chained up. He's got the power over it, so to speak, but then she realizes, well, he also does need her. So she sort of barters a little bit in that, give me a shower, give me food, and I'll do it. And so he agrees to that. He sort of allows that to happen. So then it sort of sets off in motion a bit of fun and games on the story, because it's basically during the day when he's going off to work, she has to do these set tasks with Tal. And when he comes home, he will then collect the data out of her brain and make Tal better or whatever. Yeah. That's the premise.
Yeah, sort of progress his project there.
But we know the whole time Julia's also, because she is doing it all the time, she's looking around, she's trying to figure out how to escape from this place as well.
She finds a bit of a dialogue there with Tao saying, because Tao keeps calling her Subject 3.
That's right.
And she says, no, my name's Julia. I'm a person. I have a name.
Yep.
And then Tao obviously doesn't understand this. And she says, Alex is a person. He's got a name. And then so Tao, of course, naturally says, I have a name. Am I a person?
And she says yes.
She says yes. Well, I think and she ends up...
which was a good ploy,
sort of getting to know him and realizing that she can talk with Tao. Tao isn't the captor.
No.
Tao is also a captive in the
He
house,
is
really.
as well,
He knows nothing of the outside.
Yeah, he tells us this.
She can tell him about some of the outside world.
Well, he tells her as well. So we sort of have this cat and mouse that during the day, Julia and Tao start to develop and they learn from each other. And then Alex comes home and it's more locked down like a prison again, and things are tense and things aren't working. And Tao and Julia realise that. They're learning from that. And I think Tao's learning. But yeah, so Julia realises that through what Tao says, that he's not allowed to read the books and he's not allowed to go outside. And so he asks those questions, she starts explaining them to him. And in return then she's more free to do around the house, and we get to that pinnacle of literally they're in the library playing classical music and she's reading from a book about human evolution, and Tao's wants more and more and more and more from her, from that part,
Well, she also learns and she talks with Alex about Tao, wanting to know what he is, and finds out that Tao is actually a failed experiment.
Right.
It is failed because when he gets too much input information, he becomes erratic. And initially he's sort of going, oh, that sounds a bit dangerous. But I think Julia there at that point goes, well, let's find out what happens.
Yeah.
I will progress this relationship. Let's see what happens when I push Tao to see what his real limits are. And I was sort of worried. I was thinking, well, maybe a computer that has control over that frightening robot isn't something you want to have go erratic. But I think what we do learn, not directly, but through the movie, is that the erratic nature of Tao is what you and I might well call human empathy. And emotion. He stops being the obedient servant and starts having his own ideas.
That's right, yeah. Because he starts playing a bit, again, we go very much from him saying to Julia, complete your task, Julia, to... we're going to get in trouble when Alex comes home to, it's okay. We can bend the rules a bit, for classical music, because that's something that Tao wants. Yeah, so the more she questions him, the more he questions back. And at the same time, the deadline is approaching for Alex. And he then realizes that Tao has actually changed a bit. And we have a great moment where Julia tries to escape, and he won't follow her. That's Tao. So Alex orders him to follow her into the air vent, and he basically stops the robot and everything. And so Alex,
and that fight with him where Tao actually says, "Alex, get off Julia, I will cause pain."
Yeah.
Which is totally throws Alex, and Alex is not happy with that in the slightest.
No, he's not. And so what he does in return is, of course, he then punishes him, and we see him damaging Tao's brain, don't we, on the big screen? He's got the ability to fry him, kind of thing, somehow. But Tao is kind of, he's distorting him, and that's his punishment. So he's pulling him back in line. He also then says that for that he wants Tao to hurt her, and then he won't. So then he actually decides to wipe Tao clean, doesn't he? And to do that reboot, we have one of those little drones that he kind of not exactly sure. I wasn't exactly sure what he did to it.
He nicked a bit off its wing or something to use in repairing the underground dungeon of torture.
Yeah.
Experimentation.
So he did that. So then one of the drones which Tao commands, I guess, still had Tao's coding in it or whatever. And so he's sort of left this little drone off in the corner to die or whatever. And then in punishing Tao, he wipes him totally clean. He reboots him, doesn't he?
Yeah. So he's back to calling Julia Subject 3.
Subject 3. So then when he comes back on, and Julia's upset, of course, because she's lost Tao, and he's back to his clinical self again, and he wants to punish her and get her to do her things. Yeah, and then so Julia is going to, that's right, Alex is going to remove the chip, which will also kill her.
Julia, yeah, poor thing.
And so in a flash, she is kind of screaming in that the little drone version helps her escape, doesn't it? Because
it drops a little remote control to her restraints.
That's right, yeah. So she can free herself. And she frees herself and she cuts Alex's hand off.
Hand off, yes.
Yeah, because that's obviously the hand to get out of the house. She runs upstairs and to set the self-destruct on the house, which was something that we did learn. We didn't speak about.
She first tries to escape out the front door, but Ares sort of gets in the way.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
She has to sort of run around and dodge around, and that's when, unable to get out that way, she runs up the stairs.
She runs up the stairs, sets the self-destruct with his hand, and then
rips his way in.
Yeah.
So she dodges around.
She dodges around him, and he's getting kind of destroyed by the house. Is that right? I'm just trying to remember. Yeah, the house kind of destroys Alex. So.
Yeah, because Alex confronts her at the end with his, just as she's again trying to get out.
Yeah. And
he confronts her, and I was thinking, oh, here we go. This is one of those bits, indestructible bad guy. But then just the house drops on him.
Yeah, that's right.
Splats him.
That's right, with Alex. Yeah, so she kind of sets the self-destruct. She comes around and then Alex, peers out. He's got the one arm to grab her and the house, big concrete boulder lands on him. So she succeeds. She gets out of the house and the house kind of implodes on itself, doesn't it? Collapses on itself. And she is free in a meadow outside the house, and she's actually got the little drone, which is Tau.
That beautiful symbolism of the open sky and the free-flowing, breezes over the grass and the trees. Because had she stepped out into a cityscape, for example, I don't think you'd get that same sense of freedom, because you go, oh, great, well, now you're just back where you were before.
That's right.
But there was this final image was one of realizing the beauty of the world. She was free and able to. It's
very free,
move on.
Free from being trapped in a prison. And for Tao too, he's come back on. So it's all of what Tao had learnt with Julia, but in this little drone thing.
Yeah, and he wanted to see what trees were.
Yeah, the little mite. He's not going to cause any damage in society, is he?
Yeah, I don't know. It depends on how quickly he learns how to program himself.
Yes, that's right. So that's pretty much the overall plot, the key plot points. What was your viewing experience of this like, sorry?
Well, I would have watched it with my wife, but she's seen this movie before.
Oh, okay.
An evening where I was busy doing something. And
yeah, right.
She had nothing better to do, so I watched a movie. Oh, I went to bed. I was super tired, as happens from time to time.
Yeah.
So I ended up watching this one on the train, and that was very nifty.
Yeah.
It was quite nice, I think, having that connection between the holding the phone and seeing the little drones and a computer talking through the screen, touch screens going on there. I got a bit of a connection there.
Right.
I think I would have liked. It would have been nice in like a big home theatre room.
Yeah.
I think it's better served in that case rather than being in a cinema.
Yeah.
I think because of the atmospherics of the movie, it's set inside of a house with big screens on the walls and so on. I think you kind of get a good what do you call it? Physical empathy going on there.
Yeah, definitely.
But I quite enjoyed it on my phone.
Yeah.
That's seems to be it's becoming quite a good way of watching movies now.
Yeah, definitely. You're hip with the kids on the phone.
Yeah, I'm hip with the kids.
And I've been doing that myself. This one I got to see on a decent screen, but I suppose for me as well, and I just watched it on my own, but it was like, I was really surprised after that beginning being kind of almost like a horror. We're set up, young, beautiful woman doing something bad, kidnapped, surgically experimented on. I was thinking, oh, where is this going, this plot? But then really once you got into the means of Julia and Tao, it was really a film that made you think. Like it was really got me thinking,
like just those questions of, I've got a name. Does that make me a person?
That's right. And she says to him, she's describing the earth and she's drawing it onto the wall. Smart paint.
Oh, yeah.
All the walls are digital walls, so you can like draw on them and Tao can sort of input that. But we kind of come in and she's describing the earth, but that's too much for him when he doesn't understand what outside means. So then she goes, so right now and she draws like a little stick figure and she's like, we're inside a house. And then she draws like, the old traditional, like what a kid would draw as a house. Yeah. But outside the house, there's the outside world with trees and shrubs and animals and stuff. It's like, What's a tree? What's an animal? You know, like, and it was like, wow, like it just starts to cook your head, this film, like that conversation, you know. We're so used to, as adults, I think, just we learn things and then we assume things, don't we? Like it's that old, like The Matrix. That's why I always loved The Matrix, is just that idea of perception.
Yeah.
You know, like what we perceive is real. And so here's a creature, a Tau, who's blank. And so then he's asking those questions.
And I quite enjoyed the change in pace, because like you were watching the start and reading the one sentence blurb on Netflix, I was thinking something more like maybe like Saw, or like a Cube.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Cube. Yes.
Cube, is that what it's called? Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's the group.
Because I was thinking the other one's Sphere, which is an entirely different one.
Yeah, that's it.
Michael Crichton. If he wants to come in and tell me how to do that. Yeah, so the Cube, which is sort of similar, like a whole bunch of traps in a room. I was getting that same sort of vibe there.
Yeah, me too.
And then you find out, in fact, the computer isn't the bad guy, because that's what I was expecting would be, that the computer starts doing something bad, and like she's going to have to appeal to a human, but it's the other way around. She's got to work with this computer to try and get them both out.
And you've just made me think this. Like I kept thinking, and it doesn't happen, but I kept thinking that, she's probably at some point going to seduce Alex. That's the traditional thing.
There was kind of a start of that when she was stabbing him with a knife, or
because there was where she stabs him. She does stabs him, but like early in the film, there's when she barters and that for the shower and that, then she's in the robe. The towel.
And he's sort of being a bit creepy.
But he's not on top of her. But then you kind of think, it's very traditional, isn't it? Like a woman to escape, they might use their body. And we already know she's got a hot little body and she's used it to steal from people. So it made a lot of sense for her to do that, but she never does. And then even she gets clothes and he, there's like a G-string or sexy, and he goes, I didn't want to seem prudish, and so you're kind of like, there's a little bit there, and I kept thinking, like, traditionally that's what happens, isn't it? It's like the captive, she falls in love with him, or she seduces him, he falls in love with her, and then so that's how she's going to get out. But that did not actually happen, which I liked.
Yeah, it's good. She basically used her
humanity
and her brain.
Yeah.
Which was nice, because obviously Tao has no concept of... He didn't even realise that he was a house with an outside.
Yeah.
So,
again,
there was no social knowledge for this computer.
That's right. So for me, the viewing experience, big screen, but this was a film that got me thinking, and I liked that. And it stuck with me the next day as well. Like I kept kind of thinking about it as well, which is always, I reckon, a good sign. So we have the ladder. I'll go through my ladder. I'm putting this one as number 5 on my ladder. This is the ladder of all the films apart from Space Odyssey and Alien. They're on our classic ladder. So for me then, the ladder after this film is Lobster, Other Life, Passengers, The Beyond, and then Tau takes that 5th spot on the 5th rung. And then Revolt, The Darkest Dawn equals Spectral, and then Gora.
Yeah, I quite liked this one. I would put it just above The Beyond.
Yeah, right.
Because talking to computers, I could definitely see myself seeing this film again in time.
Yeah.
Again, The Beyond, having that documentary sort of feel to it, it would take me longer before I watch that again.
Yeah, so fair enough.
I'm using that as kind of a bit of a gauge.
Just as a gauge, on the style of it. Yeah.
I'm going to, how I'd rate these movies is how soon it would be before I'd watch it again.
Yeah.
So
if you're listening out there, let us know your preference after you watch this movie. Where is it on the ladder? Let us know what your ladder is looking like with the films that we've looked at, and if there's maybe a film that should go in there somewhere. But if you want a film that makes you think, Tau is definitely, I reckon, one of that.
Yeah, it makes you think, but it's also got a bit of suspense in there.
Oh, yeah.
It's got a bit of that hint of, I suppose you might call it, it's a very old school sort of horror where it's not showing you anything actually horrific, but the whole time you're imagining at any step something dreadful is going to happen.
I mean, it's a great, look, as writers, it's a great technique, isn't it, that robot? Because really that robot, like even she does try to escape down the air vent and it just claws her and pulls her back through the air vent, I just, in my head, I was like, that is a death robot, that thing. That is not a nice looking robot, so.
No, I can't imagine why.
Extremely powerful, sounded scary. We see it murder, it murders the other two people before it gets to her at the start of the film. So that one wrong step and she's in trouble.
Yeah, I really would have thought that the defense contract would want more of those. Because you drop a few of those into someone's
holy shit
enemy base, and wow.
I suppose that's the thing. Again, like you and I were talking about, Iron Man's suit or whatever. But it's how many bullets that machine could take, but it could hunt down things pretty quickly and seemed bloody powerful.
It's pretty good at maneuvering through all sorts of spaces. Discerning people from non-people.
That's right. Finding people. Yeah, we've seen alien films over the years that are not that sophisticated. So yeah, definitely. All right, what about best scenes? A scene that stuck out to you that not so good. What are the best scenes for Surrey? Or what's one?
Well, okay, one of them, and I'll leave one I know that you will probably have to you. I quite liked where she's using the hand to get through the doors and things. And I like this because she ran up, and the first door she had to use, she just put the hand on it. It went blip, blip, okay. And she got into the main house area. And then she ran up to the front door.
Yep.
I think there's the... No, she went up the stairs and she's trying to get into his room.
Yeah.
And the Ares robot is chasing her. And she puts it on the door and it goes, dun, dun, too cold. And so she's sitting there rubbing it with her hands and blowing on it and trying to warm it up as if it's her own hands.
The robot's coming, yeah.
Put it on the sensor. And it was good because it was a nice touch of detail about the temperature of the hand, and she's having to warm it up. I found it a bit, I suppose, comedic, in fact, the way that she had to sort of warm this hand whilst a death robot. But at the same time, there's this terrible sense of suspense where you just don't want to... Because I think the start of the film sets that tone of one of these horror movies like, I guess also Hostel and things, where terrible things happen. And even if the ending could be considered kind of okay, happy-ish, there's still people are not getting out of it unscarred. So there was that tension as this robot and the sound of it coming up the stairs, just thumping up the stairs. And I had these little earbuds in, like quite good ones. And it was just very intense coming out, and she's trying to get it to work, and you want it to work. Because even though I was pretty sure she's going to escape, I thought, well, maybe she doesn't, but maybe Tao does, or maybe it's some weird, like her brain implant gets up into Tao and they live as cyber entities. I thought I didn't want that.
Yeah.
I wanted her to actually punish this guy, Alex, because he was a goose.
He was.
And yeah, so it was a great sort of scene with that sound of the approaching steps. It reminded me a bit of the first big boss in Doom, the computer game.
Oh, yeah.
Not the movie.
Yep.
I watched the movie. It's quite fun. The computer game is got the cyber demon. And my very first experience of that, this is back before...
Was this the 1994 sort of DOS version? Or was
this is the DOS version. Yeah. 94, no.
Or 92 or something?
Earlier than that, yeah. So it was before... early 90s.
Yeah.
Beginning of the 90s, yeah. So there's no internet. It's not like I could watch YouTube clips of people getting to the end. This is back in the days where when you got to the end of a game, it's...
You've gotten to the end.
Yeah. You're experiencing it yourself for the first time. There's no spoilers. And you come up this elevator and you're just about to open these doors and you just hear these mechanical, heavy footsteps just marching around the place. And wearing headphones, for example, you can hear it moving from left to right as it passes around outside this building you're in. And quite frankly, it was terrifying. And this scene had that nice bit of tension in there where you could feel this robot. And robots are scary because they're implacable. They don't stop.
Yep.
They're like the Terminator. They absolutely will not stop until they achieve their goal. And his goal was to stick one of his big blades through her chest or head or something. Yeah. She wouldn't like it in any case. Probably not the head because they'd want to save the chip, but there you go. So that was a very good scene. I thought it had the right level of... There's a nice bit of sort of mild humour, I'm going to say. It was a bit humorous, but there's this tension and detail of reality there of cold hand knocking almost. It's great. It's
funny, everything you were just saying there, like it made me think, and I think I had the thought during it. a film like this could have gotten to that kind of anti-hero end, so that, you know, at the end of it, Julia dies. And the point of the story was kind of the human and the AI, Tao, coming together and showing, you know, as you mentioned, like hope. But at the end, it could have been that real sinister end that Alex just keeps going and Tao is re-wiped and she's actually dead.
Well, I think what you'd probably still have to have some sort of a hint there that Tao remembers her a bit. That would be the that light at the end of the tunnel of that grim moving where grim ending would be where the Tao kind of, you get a little hint, like maybe a little glitch where something of Julia or something of
like
Tao,
an image of Julia
still exists there, and you kind of go,
well, at some point Tao will probably do something like kill Alex or whatever. I was kind of a bit fearful as you were just saying that. I remember thinking, she might not get out of this place actually.
Yeah, because
it could be one of those
few
endings.
efforts which failed.
Yes. So for me, we mentioned, like you mentioned before, the drones cleaning the house. I loved that, like cleaning up the murder scene. You had the bodies being dragged. And
I thought it was so mean that Ares was dragging the corpse, leaving a big blood trail, and all these drones were scurrying about trying to clean it up. You just pick the body up, man. You'd be nice.
And it was good, I reckon, that Alex came home and he ran his finger along the, like an edge. Yeah. He's like checking to see if it's been cleaned, and Tao's like, every surface has been cleaned and disinfected, and it was like, but he ran, he's still like doubtful, like very human, isn't it? It's like, I don't think, just checking, just making sure, But yeah, I liked all that. That was pretty cool, that drones cleaning the house thing. Just personally, be nice to have, be cool to have. But yeah, I think that death robot coming alive, chasing those two inmates, that was just such a good scene.
That was what I was going to lead with, but I thought I'd leave it for you.
As you said, like before, they come up the stairs from blowing up their prison. They come up those stairs. All of a sudden, and they're in this massive mansion, really large landscape. They go to this solid door that you can't get out of. And the guy puts his hand up, and this beautiful sculpture. That was another cool technique, wasn't it?
There were other sort of sculptures.
Yeah, there was. We're in this billionaire's house.
What do you call it? Trellis type frames and dividers, and it was like it almost had sort of a what you might call a South American, Central American, Aztec-y sort of these sort of square what do you call them, spiral type etchings and angular features about the place that there was just it looked like a sculpture. I thought like it had a red glow, and I thought it was just a camera.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
or so at most. But
it was a very nice surprise because they'd passed it, they'd walked past it, it had not moved.
And you realise we'd heard the footsteps of Ares earlier.
Yeah,
when they were first in prison downstairs, before she was talking to any of the other people down there. We'd hear this thump, 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 walking sort of past. And at the time, I just dismissed that as being, that's the guy or something. Yeah,
that's right, yeah.
But it was after Ares came over, I realised that, oh no, actually that was the foreshadowing of this horrible robot.
Horrible death robot, yeah. So I think it's great. And then, the way he hunts them down, she tries to hide, and she tries to help the other one, and the other one's just, ripped apart and all this sort of stuff. So it was a great surprise, because I think at that point as well, you thought the three of them would be, they would either get out together, and then that would be the journey maybe, or, they would all be recaptured, but the fact that two of them are just boom, boom, and then he's going to rip, as you said before, Julia, it looks like he's going to rip Julia's arms off, It's always great that, isn't it? In any robot movie, because just the strength of something that could be a robot would just pull us apart, versus again, a human trying to pull someone's arms off. So yeah, I really loved that scene. I thought that was great. Any others?
I was going to say the vent chase.
Yep.
Something that always gets me in every single movie where they go into the ventilation.
Yes.
And I think Gora really picked this up nicely. Is that they're never that big.
No.
I have never once seen a vent or a tube or anything that would be big enough for a person to be in. But in all of these movies, they're big enough to crawl around in. In fact, Stranger Things did this very well. Have you seen Stranger Things yet?
I've only watched a couple episodes, the first 2 episodes. So no, I haven't seen air vents in Stranger Things.
So, well, anyway, there is at one point they're trying to get someone to go, the air vents. And they look, and it's little.
It's teeny,
and the dude sort of looks and goes, well, we can't do that. And that was a great sort of betrayal of this.
Because it is big in this movie again, isn't it, the air vent?
Oh, huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
You can fit a car in there.
Yeah, I should just walk in there, not a problem. I've never seen an air vent of that size.
No.
I mean, maybe you get down to the basement of like a really big building. The initial vents might be that big, but certainly between the rooms and around the place, they're all maybe.
Well, I mean, even in Die Hard, I mean, Bruce Willis is like squeezing through there, isn't he, with the lighter?
Yeah, he's sort of on his belly.
He's squeezing through, yeah.
But anyway,
but even that is probably...
It was a nice scene there where she climbs in there, though.
Yes.
And it's a little bit tight for her, but she's sort of scurrying in there, and she stops and looks back because Ares is this great huge robot.
Yeah.
But of course, Ares can change his shape.
Yeah.
So he sits there and looks at the vent for a moment, and you think, oh, has she gotten away? Has she found a safe space? No, not at all. Because Ares then starts pushing his head in, and then you hear this clunk, and his shoulders pull in, and then he just starts moving
stretching
in
towards her, doesn't he?
And then she goes, get away! And so she crawls
and
for
he's
it.
like grabbed her, hasn't he?
And his big long telescoping arm. Terrifying.
It's always the thing with robots, isn't it? How long is that telescoping arm? It just can go forever, can't it, really?
I've seen Inspector Gadget. I know they're very long.
So, yeah, anyone out there listening could let us know what they think are the best scenes. So what about the science? Sorry, what are you going to pick on?
Science behind the show.
I mean, obviously, is it AI? Is this what you've thought about?
We've already spoken about AI. Well, it's kind of a little bit AI.
How you can make a lot of money? Tell me how you make it. Video conference calls as they do in this movie.
Conference calling.
Yeah,
that's the way of the future.
It's a holographic video conference call, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool. I was more looking at just the home automation side of things.
Oh, yeah.
So we've been often promised home automation. I remember back when I was at university reading about Bill Gates' house. It had various memory settings, which led, of course, to this concept of the Internet of Things.
Yep.
And this is a concept that came up quite a while ago in the 80s or something. But what the idea is, and it never made sense to me, and I think the reason it never made sense is because the technology wasn't caught up with the concept. So it was originally, the very first thing I think was like a Coca-Cola vending machine on, I can't remember which university it is now. It was connected to the base station and was able to say what its stock levels were, what temperature the drinks were, if there are any faults, that sort of thing. And people are then saying, you could have smart lights and you can have internet connected fridge, and all of that, quite rightly so, never happened because people are going, why do I want my fridge on the internet? Well, what is that going to do? So luckily for us, technology has caught up with the concept, and those ideas have kind of gone a little bit to the wayside and become far more complex and complete, and it's starting to make a lot more sense. And Tao, the computer in the house, is kind of a hint of what's possible, except, of course, Tao is stuck to his house, which limits his capabilities and limits the scope of what can be done. So what we're talking about then with the Internet of Things is it's not things being on the internet. That kind of a fridge on the internet doesn't make sense. Your light globe on the internet doesn't make sense. It's actually the Internet of Things. So the things are the internet, not the World Wide Web that we're looking at. And this means that we've got a whole lot, we can get a whole bunch of data from all these sensors, because all your things, basically, data and capability. So if you've got a fridge connected, for example, you've got the temperature, how old it is, how well things are running, its electricity usage. Maybe it can detect ethylene gas inside, so it can tell when your fruit and veg is going off, all that sort of stuff. But that's all data. There's the other side of it is the capability. The fridge can increase its refrigeration, decrease, be warmer, be colder. Maybe it can change the light setting and so forth. So you've got this mix of the two. The real strength of the Internet of Things, it comes from the melding of this data out from the single item into the network connection of all the items with some artificial intelligence. So the fridge by itself is not terribly useful because most of its sensory information and data is irrelevant. You can just open the fridge and have a look, or you don't care.
I've run out of tomatoes.
Yeah, it's not really all that significant.
Mm.
One of the great examples that I'm personally coming in contact with, I work in the energy industry as a computer programmer, and one of the exciting developments there is what's known as distributed energy grids. So this is as opposed to the centralized grids which we have currently. So at the moment we've got some great big generators. In Kwinana we've got some gas-fired things around Kemerton and Collie. There's a big coal plant in Collie, and we've got some wind farms and so forth. So there's these great big single spot of many megawatts of generation onto great big electrical cables which come into the cities and distribute. But what we're seeing now is everyone is putting solar panels on their roof. And this is more like, this is still kind of like the fridge connected to the internet. It's, okay, it's not all that useful. There's no point in having smarts to it. But what if we picked up all the houses in Perth? So there's, I know, a few 100,000 households with solar panels. And what if they had battery connection as well? So on an individual level, you're still going to have a fair bit of fluctuation, but the sun doesn't land evenly across, from Mandurah to Perth is like 80 kilometres. The sun doesn't land evenly. So where places are getting a lot of sunshine, they can actually, they're producing this information and saying, well, I'm getting all this sunshine. My battery is at this level. Somewhere else can say, well, my battery is at this level and I'm not getting any sunshine, and I'm connected here, and this area here, the weather forecast says the sun will move over there and the wind is going to do this. So you've got all this information coming in. All you need then is to have it's like an intelligence to look at this big pool of data and figure out the best way of sending this electricity everywhere. So rather than having like a great big generator that just pumps out power and everyone, suckles upon its mighty teat, you have lots of little teats. No. That metaphor is not going anywhere fast. No. But what you have then is you've just got, as each area of the grid changes its demand and supply, it can balance out the other areas of the grid. Mm. And this is done in a decentralized way because all these like individual solar panels, people's batteries, sending out information, about charge state and things. And then they're pulling in other information from weather forecasts and demand forecasts and supply forecasts. And then that can all be munched together by some smart bit of equipment, which will then figure out what the optimal use of battery versus solar versus wind versus these big baseload generators are. And so suddenly now everyone is sharing their own equipment to reduce their own and everyone else's demand, power costs. Yeah. So that's one area that's really interesting, and that can only be achieved through this Internet of Things. Other examples are self-driving cars. An individual self-driving car by itself having to figure out everything about the road and how to drive requires a lot of information, a lot of power. But if you have, let's say, most of the cars on the road are connected to each other, then they don't have to have the smarts in them. They can share all this information. The car doesn't have to have a radar to say exactly where the other car is. The other car can tell it where it is. Say, oh, my GPS coordinate is this, and I've just passed this point. And, so you get this communication, and traffic can also flow faster and better because they'll go, well, the traffic lights ahead are about to change, so I'll just slow down a little bit now.
We all can slow down.
And rather than causing big traffic buildups and so on. And I mean, that comes down to also power control. So if your air conditioner, for example, is connected into this distributed energy system and with the car system, then what you can end up with is, as the weather is forecast to be very sunny in your area, your air conditioning can go up a bit higher. Sensor on your house will tell you how much energy you've absorbed or gotten rid of in your house. And then as the spike of supply moves on, air conditioning can drop down again, and you remain at a nice, comfortable condition. And so by the time you get home from work, you've saved the maximum amount of power, but you've got the most amount of comfort in your house.
Yeah. And the car can probably talk to the house and saying we're 20 minutes away.
It'll
pump it up so it's a bit colder or a bit hotter.
Yeah, and it'll know
your master is coming.
We'll know who is coming as well. So it's like, well, it's not just Surrey, but he's bringing like 4 of his sporting event mates. That's what normal people have.
Yeah. I think so.
Something along those lines.
They've been at a sporting match.
A sporting match of the local sports team.
They're hot and bothered.
And they'll want to have extra cold beer, and they'll want to have the TV on, and they'll love music and God knows what else. Who knows?
But it can all wait till that second that you're either home or the second that the car drives in.
Likewise, when you leave the house,
it can all shut
locks
down.
Things, turns off lights, all the rest of it.
I know I read a thing even here at City of Mandurah were doing the Internet of Things with, and I read the article about it, which they were doing it to do with water pipes and drainage. And the idea is, again, I mean, like the way I've always interpreted the Internet of Things, it's data collection. And that data is supposed to make things, smarter. It's supposed to make things more efficient. It's supposed to save, effectively over time, save money and time. And so the way they were talking about with the drainage pipes and stuff is that they can maintain flows of the drain pipes and then immediately notice that something's not flowing. And so that is like a warning. But the thing is, if it's set up appropriately, then the information is relayed really quickly to an appropriate tradesperson to fix that problem. And you don't have this thing of like maybe a water pipe running underground for 6 months and it's just wasting water. And then all of a sudden they do a routine check and they go, oh, there's a broken pipe. Whereas by noticing like there's an increase in drainage at a particular pipe compared to normal flows, there must be a leak in the system. What other information do we have on the Internet of Things that's telling us that there's maybe something broken, So that's the way it was a good explanation of that. And that's just here in Mandurah that they're investing in that kind of technology.
And then you can look at the health side of things. So we're talking about, we're moving into, once you've got your Internet of Things, you're moving into this concept of ubiquitous computing and ambient computing. So that is everything around you and in your environment starts becoming somewhat intelligent. It can take in data, take some action, transmit data, and as a whole operates as a computing system. And if you've got that, one of the things we're looking at is detecting health issues like well before they become real problems. Because most for example, cancers are actually quite treatable and curable if you get them as soon as possible. And likewise with diabetes. If you're going to get diabetes type 1, or you get it, if you find that you have type 1 diabetes, sometimes it's too late. It's at a dreadful time where you've had a hypoglycemic event, you've gone into a coma, or you've lost a leg or something. My friend just recently found out that her little 4-year-old or something is type 1 diabetic. So you can go quite a few years without ever knowing. I mean, it's fortunately he's not been damaged by this. But if you have enough sensors and enough information going out, and this sort of this ambient computing environment where your refrigerator has a bit of power, your TV has a bit of smarts, your phone has a bit, and it can pump this out to the internet where maybe your health insurance fund, maybe Medicare, runs a private sort of health monitoring system for you, because that'll reduce all of our costs if we can pick up these things.
Yeah.
Then it'll go, for example, your blood pressure is increased like this, your heart rate's like that,
I don't want the government knowing
blood sugar is this, that thing. I mean, it doesn't have to be government, it could be your own, whatever.
I'm trying to think, because is it in the movie The Island, and the clones, and they like pee into the toilet in the morning, and it kind of does that. Yeah, it does an analysis of that, and then they're allowed to have something for breakfast or not. Too much protein, not enough protein. Yeah, you can't have bacon and eggs today. You've got to have like the oats or whatever.
I don't have the oats every time anyway.
Yeah. But there's that sort of analysis. Like that's what you need, isn't it? Like you pee into a toilet every morning, and it's like doing a urine analysis of your system.
That's where we also talk about diabetes. You have the insulin pumps and things, which are able to detect your blood sugars and just maintain a level of insulin the whole time.
Yeah.
But this sort of feedback would, I think, allow for this level, as you say, of efficiency and economy that we could go to that next level of science fiction living. And that's what I'm about. And the technology is now catching up to that.
It is, yeah.
In particular, our
everything, yeah.
wireless communication technology.
Yeah.
Because previously, in order to get the sort of level of low latency, high bandwidth you need for the amount of information going out, you'd needed fibre optic connections.
Right.
And whilst we do have a bit of fibre optic cable around Australia, you really need wireless because your light bulbs, you can't have a cable running to every light in your house and a cable running to your seat that you're sitting in and all the rest of it. But we've got mobile communications. 4G is not quite good enough. 5G is promising to be there. It's got the low level of bandwidth, the high bandwidth, low latency, which means a message over 5G arrives and is answered very quickly.
Yep.
Like a millisecond time, as opposed to 4G, which is more like about in the tens or 100 milliseconds. So it's many times quicker in response, which you need if you want your drones delivering packages. They need to be able to respond to the bird that's about to fly into them. And they need to be able to do that faster than the bird can respond. Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a problem, though, with 5G. And it's not necessarily the health issues. It's actually, there's... when the chips in the current 5G phones get onto 5G connectivity, they actually heat up too much and shut down. So most of the time, you're actually not able to use 5G. And this is a problem with the fact you've got a lot more throughput requirement, a lot more processing requirement. And so we've got this theoretical way of communicating very efficiently and effectively, but we don't have the hardware that will do it in a useful manner. So it'll be interesting to see how they overcome that issue where you can't have your office chair, which is monitoring posture when you're up and down, how much you fart, who knows what it's doing. But you can't have that just shutting down every 5 minutes because it overheats.
That's right.
Yeah,
It's
it'll catch fire and your house will burn down. And the 5G sensors will turn off because they'll get too hot and they won't be able to inform the fire brigade and you'll be in trouble. So all the other concerns about 5G aside, there's actually still quite a bit of a technological barrier there that you need a relatively large piece of equipment to work effectively with it, which is the opposite of what we're trying to achieve here. We're trying to get very small things, like down the size of like a thumbnail type of size, but the
chip's not quite there yet.
Yeah, it's not there. So that'll be interesting. And so I was thinking about that with Tao, with his army of little drones.
Yep.
The way he was in all of them and still within the main processor of the house.
Yeah.
And that sort of tipped me over. And I was thinking that's sort of the micro level and actually the least benefit, I think, because again, I can vacuum my own house. Like it's not actually that much. I don't vacuum my house very often because I'm lazy, but I could.
Yeah.
And having an army of drones constantly cleaning my house, it doesn't seem to add a lot of benefit to me. But if someone said, we can basically run your house for free, because industry will suck up your spare power and your house will self-optimize to whatever settings you choose for it, we go, well, okay, I'll do that. That's a real benefit.
That's
there.
right.
Not to mention, then you're also talking about, say, as I said, these health benefits. If you have health monitoring, when you're talking on an individual scale, you go, well, I've gotten to the age of whatever and I've not had any real problems, so why should I pay for someone else? You go, well, that's not the thing. If on a population of 25 million people in Australia, we could basically, halve the incidence rate of all diseases.
Yeah, that's it.
Medicare would suddenly become a really cheap thing to have.
That's it.
We wouldn't have to go to doctor's visits because we would be on the ball straight. As soon as we get the common cold virus, our body, something would tell us and we go, hey, by the way, you might have got the common cold.
Yep.
Do these things. Don't go out. Don't go talking to other people for 4 days, whatever it is. And diseases will start disappearing. Cancers will be detected so early that they'll be preventable. Entire standard of living will raise and the cost of maintaining a population will drop. And I think that's that's where we're going to end up in Star Trek land.
Yeah, and I mean, like you're saying, environmentally it'd probably be better as well, because if the grid is more greener, because that's what I've also heard with that whole distribution of power, you know what I mean? Because obviously people can have solar panels. You might have a couple that have solar panels and they go out to work all day, and pretty much they're just going back into the grid, you know? But that power could then maybe go to the house next door, which is maybe an elderly couple. And so therefore the green is, you know, it's just green all around, isn't it? You know, so it's like this distribution of power. And then maybe when that young couple come home, they're then taking back from the battery from the older people, or what, you know, so there's this distribution, equalization that you probably would have, you know, less reliance on coal power and other things.
Because if you look at grids like
the environment would get better.
Like the East Coast, it runs a couple thousand kilometres up and down the East Coast. And the weather conditions across that amount of geography are so varied that there's actually so much wind power and solar power hitting there, you could easily power the whole place. The problem is that it happens in different spots, and you don't
different times.
It's different times, and you can't connect the dots very well.
No, you've got to have that information, as you're talking about, processing, you know, and that constant. I think that's the other thing, isn't it? It's like a constant. You know, it's like a mum with 10 kids. It's, you know, like there's a lot of fires to put out. So you need that algorithm massively working through all of that, you know, as an issue.
Yeah, and that's where you get, as I said right at the start there, it's a combination of data and capability.
Yeah.
So there's no point in having, you know, capabilities without having the information to drive those decisions. And we're only just now reaching the technologies required for it. We've got the cloud computing, for example. We're getting enough computing power to actually process meaningful sized neural networks, which can eat up, you know, like Netflix, the amount of data Netflix gets per minute regarding what people are watching, when they're watching, and how much data that's using. The videos that you watch are stored and they're reprocessed and compressed constantly in order to maximize the compression, because different parts of the video can be compressed at different amounts, but you don't necessarily know for any given video what that is. But they've got monitoring which logs all this information, and then they've got smarts which look at all of that and figure out the best ways of compressing and sending and transmitting and storing all of that.
To try to keep everyone happy.
Yeah, which means that ultimately it keeps subscription prices down and power usage down, which is just good for everyone.
Very good. Yeah. All right, so that's some great science, really. I'm interested that you picked on that.
Well, it's
a good angle.
It's something that's been interesting me at work. As I said, we're really just starting to move into it. In the next sort of 4 years here in WA, we're going through a major piece of reform work. And something that is informing that is this concept of distributed energy resources.
Yep. Because
the amount, like WA in particular, has been so vigorous in installing solar panels.
Yeah.
It's so much so that they reckon in the sort of next 4 to 5 years, if we don't start moving some of our rules and regulations, some of our computing to this distributed energy resource model, we're actually risking damage to our infrastructure.
Yeah.
Because too much electricity, if the clouds part, the amount of sun that hits Perth on any given day is enough to destabilize the grid.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden, all these people who, like you said, they're at work, they're not at home.
No, that's right.
And particularly here in winter, where last week we got 3-4 days of clear skies and sunshine.
Still doing well, yeah.
And it's just like, that's just energy straight to the grid.
Yep.
And if that happens suddenly, like I said, the clouds part, then these poor old coal power plants, they just can't respond to that quickly enough. And so they're pushing out heaps more power and things start overloading. So it's very interesting, and that's why Tao really interests me, because the way he controlled his drones in that organized way that they all clearly knew the location of each other.
Yes.
And they could move in that perfect formation in order to, and that there was a larger presence observing all the dirt and things. Anyway, I'm excited about that.
Yeah, it is very exciting. Very exciting. That's cool.
But how about some of the interesting parts of the filmmaking there? I picked up on a couple of bits, I'm sure, but I'd love to hear what you have to say.
So to me, it just stood out. It was very cinematic. It was very stylized. It was very nice, colorized kind of, at the start, that kind of horror concept. We had the dark shadows. We had the follower.
Her purple hair.
Her purple hair.
And her plastic rubber dress.
Yes.
Yeah, was that blue or cyan or something along those lines?
Yeah, I think it was blue. I think it was like a neon blue, wasn't it?
Yeah,
something
neon colours, yeah.
Yeah. Kind of felt like we were in a German rave for a minute there. But it was very stylized in that way, cinematically, that, like you've got this beautiful young woman walking down the dark, shadowy street, but she's got all the power, and and then also something in the house with Alex, like we had really, it's a beautiful set, that house, like it was really ultra modern, looked like a mansion house, as we said before, sculptures and things, and one of the sculptures turns out to be the robot. But it was a well constructed set, wasn't it?
I wonder how much of a set it was and how much it was actually someone's real house.
Yeah, I know, it's hard to know, isn't it? It doesn't look that real.
They broke it up at the end.
They did.
But that could have been the set.
That's right, yeah. That part.
Computer graphics is pretty good these days.
Yeah, it was hard to know because it looked really bloody impressive. So I thought the setting was great. Also on that, like every time it was really nice and symbolic with the lighting, that when Alex left for the day, it was like, doom, doom, the lights went down and different lights came on.
Yeah.
And it made the space look very different. And it was funny. I didn't notice to begin with, but it was almost like it was a bit of good and evil. Like when Alex was home, it was kind of more evil lighting.
Yeah, it was bluer and less saturated.
It was colder.
Yeah, whereas when he left, it was that sort
harsher shadows.
Initially, it seemed like it was a red, like emergency lighting. But then as the film went on, it was more sort of a soft orange and yellows and warm colours, yeah.
So I really liked that, and because they kept doing it every time he came and went, and it was very clear, like, when Alex is home, it felt more tense. And I reckon the lighting...
It was a good cue, I found. Like, she'd be doing something a little bit sneaky, and then the lights clunk, clunk, change to that sort of harsh white blue.
Correct,
and then, you could feel yourself tense.
You could,
I'm uncomfortable now.
So it was a good motive, like they used it again. We also, like Tao himself, I think, great digital effects. Him up on the wall. We had him in different spaces. We had it close with Julia. He's touching, she's drawing on the smart paint. That was all quite really cool, pretty cool special effects.
They can't see your air quotes.
No, the air quote, the smart paint, air quote. But it was good how they did that. The walls sort of vanished, and then we also had that lounge room where it was just the screen was the whole wall. And there's a couple of different scenes, like Tao's on there, and then there's also another scene where it's like space, and it's just the whole wall is space. I just thought they were great use of special effects. Yeah.
I'm also wondering though if that screen wall was in part actually screens, because I've seen that used. I remember there was a show called Beyond 2000.
Yes, I remember that show.
Back in the days, but back when 2000 it used to be called Towards 2000 back in the 90s.
Yeah.
And then shortly after the 2000 called Beyond 2000.
Beyond 2000, yeah.
And I remember they were first talking about their flat panel arrays.
Yes.
And one of the things they had was, in fact, a window that they were talking about for providing a more open feeling for rooms that were enclosed, like underground or in space.
Yeah.
And because you could have this sort of matte, this very flat, flush to the wall, and it was just very, very sort of good at making windows. And so I'm actually wondering if they used this house then was a real person's house, that could actually be, because it was multiple panels joined together.
It was,
it could actually be just a very expensive LED sort of LCD panel display, which would make me very impressed.
Yeah. And maybe it was just more a whole screen. I don't know, but it was cool. I really liked that. So, yeah, that's probably it with the technicalities just for Tao. Is there anything else you want to add to the whole piece, or are we good to move on?
I like the use of sound.
Yep.
As I've mentioned a few times, the robot walking, that thumping noise.
Was
very scary. The lighting was great. This is another one, though, where I didn't notice the music or soundtrack.
No.
But there must have been some there, because you've got all of that same sort of effects where, as I said, your heart rate, you can feel a tension start and drop.
Yeah.
So I really
must have been really subtle, because I was a bit the same. Like, it didn't stand out to me, but I did feel tense in moments in this film, and I did, feel for Julia and Tao and wanted to know what was about to happen. But yeah, it doesn't like recall in my brain,
Yeah, and I just did a quick Google there to see if the house on Tao was real.
Nothing coming up.
Nothing coming up there.
Fair enough. So anyway, I think that will probably do us. So look, overall, Tao's a great movie that sort of, you're probably right, it's a little bit old school thriller.
Yeah,
in a way, like a woman
few
being...
genres there. That it does definitely have that horror intro, which worked really well, I think, to raise that tension, made you feel concerned the whole time, even though through that middle portion there where she's getting to know this robot, this computer, and you're thinking, well, yeah, the computer's actually nice. Because of that intro, I was always wondering if it was going to flip, or like I wasn't sure what that dynamic was going to end up as.
So it kind of is a bit more in that thriller range. As we're just saying this, it's reminded me, not at all sci-fi, but it's a little bit like The Hand That Rocks the Cradle and the single white female idea, isn't it? That it's almost like, is it going to work out or is it not going to work out between our characters? In this case, Julia, Tao and Alex, is one of them going to flip on the other one in a way, Is everything Julia's doing, because she can't get out of the house, will it kind of come back to hit her in the face, or will she succeed?
If she was going to betray Tao.
I thought
if she was buttering him up and get him to like it, because there's that moment where Alex is first punishing Tao with the remote control, and she notices that Ares' light goes off and stops following her.
So she starts edging a little bit back, doesn't she?
Yeah, and so I was wondering, wondering then if she's going, maybe her strategy then would be to really get Tao worked up.
Yeah.
So he does something really naughty.
Yep.
And then Alex punishes him, and at that moment, because Ares is off and Tao is off, that she does something.
She can make a run for it,
and then at the same time, like I said, I was wondering if she was going to seduce Alex, or if Alex was going to be taking her, because earlier on they just said there was that sort of awkward clothes buying scene, and when she's first getting out of the shower and he's kind of just standing there a little bit awkward, and then he walks off, and you're wondering if he's going to himself develop human emotion.
Yeah, that's right.
So it was.
So it is that kind of
great
thriller,
thriller
dimension.
Premise there.
Yeah,
it's very good
in the sci-fi realm of Tao. But it doesn't do that. It goes down that path of, we have really a psychotic inventor who doesn't change at all. He stays psychotic.
Yeah,
whereas Tao, as you mentioned, kind of shows us that by developing Tao's humanity, which the scientist labels as the bad side, the bit that needs fixing.
Yeah, that's the unpredictable side.
That's the unpredictable side. For us as an audience, that's like, well, that's the human side. That's being human, isn't it? And we want that. We want a AI that has that human side. So, and really, essentially, that's how they succeed, is by using their humanity to get out, don't they?
Yes. And I do like she comes back for him.
Yeah.
So she was clear to leave. The vent was open. Yep. She had stepped out. But Tao is being ravaged by Alex.
And she stayed.
And then she was climbing up the ladder, and then she turned back for him.
She came back for him, yeah.
And then, fortunately, he was able to come back for her as well with the little drone. So it was great. A lot of tension, I think, in this movie. Not at all what I had initially thought. And that's just from those opening scenes, which really... it really could have ruined the film, I think, by swapping that. But I think what it did do is it established, without really even telling you what the stakes were, it established that the stakes weren't just that she would die, because that's pretty bland, but that something horrible would happen, possibly worse than death, where she would. And Black Mirror does this in a couple of its episodes where the artificial intelligences are actual people.
Yeah.
trapped in computer silicon. And so that opening I think really led my brain down that horror path. You say this that something terrible like from Saw or Hostel or something like that would happen, but you're left with that situation of a computer and a psycho and this poor woman stuck trying to figure out, and it goes a couple of different ways, and at any point it could go dreadfully wrong because of that opening. So I think that it's definitely well worth doing. And having a look at the Critics' Choice at 25% of Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, I know, it's bizarre.
I don't know who's voting for these things.
No,
I have a feeling that a lot of it now is political.
Yeah, I think so.
In the terms of movie theaters or movies trying to destroy other reputation while boosting their own.
I think there must be some politics behind it now. So we just need to create a Space Brains database. That's what we need to do. So it's a brand new movie database.
New database.
Start it fresh.
It's all about science fiction being just awesome.
Yeah, that's right. Just a joy watching.
Yeah.
How many joy watching? Well, they're all at 100%. That's it. So this week actually, we are going to go on a very special Space Brains excursion. We're going to leave our mansion studio.
Our luxury accommodations.
Our assistants and executives are going to hook up the limousine and get us taken to a Perth premiere event of I Am Mother. It's been shown at Leederville Luna, and the director is also going to be there for a bit of a Q&A that we hope to kind of have a little chat with, or maybe ask a couple of questions if possible.
We're lucky enough to have several Perth directors, writers and actors just now who have done very well for themselves.
They're exploding. So
in Stranger Things, Billy.
Yes, Billy, yeah.
Dacra Montgomery, Whopper graduate from WA.
Yes, yeah. So, and you know, we've done Other Life with Ben C. Lucas's film.
There's Extinction, which we haven't done on this film.
But we probably should, with Ben Young, as I think was behind that. So, and I Am Mother's. I had not really heard much about this, saw it pop up on Netflix. Oh, it's a Perth director. Wow. You know, Hilary Swank looks like people are talking it up as well. They're saying it's an interesting film.
It's got robots. How can it go wrong?
Robots again, yeah. Let's see how these robots turn out. So anyway, we're very excited. We'll go out and about, get outside, see the sunshine, and go check out the I Am Mother. So that will be our next episode, sorry.
Yeah, so if you can't make it to the premiere with us, which probably wouldn't be too surprising. I mean, you'd have to be in Perth on the 26th. But what you can do is catch it on Netflix.
Yes.
I've confirmed it is on Netflix in worldwide distribution.
Okay.
So everyone should be watching it and saying, wow, those Perth boys.
Yep, that's right. That'd be fantastic. So that's what we'll look at next time. So I think that's everything for tonight. Go check out Tao, the movie, and let us know what you think about this podcast as well on our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter pages. I think that's all for me.
I was just going to say, check out shop.gravityundone.net for any merch. And you can get this podcast on gravityundone.net as well as from all your favourite bits and pieces.
Sounds great.
And you might spot some other podcasts you like.
That's very true. Some good information there.
Until then,
see ya.
Bye-bye.